Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Bricks King podcast, where I'm going to bend your ear about Lego, review those amazing bricks of plastic, and discuss what is new and up and coming around the Lego world. I'm your Minifig host, Matt. Let's bet on it. Welcome in, everybody. How are we doing today? We've got a very full episode. We've got a very full end of the month, and today we are bringing you nothing more and nothing less, but nothing better than the new wave of Lego Ninjago that is coming out June 1st. It probably won't be in the United States then. Probably going to have to wait till August 1st. Anyway, with that in mind, we got a bunch of things to talk about today, so let's go ahead and jump into them. First set that we want to discuss today is Jay's Golden Dragon Motorbike. Now, before we do this, a little bit of a preface. This season of Ninjago that is coming up, that is going to be, we believe is going to be airing on the internet and not so much through Netflix or Cartoon Network. It may come to Cartoon Network at some point here in the US, but I believe it based on everything that Lego is putting out there, I foresee Lego just being like, here are the episodes. Now, I don't know if it's going to be in a binge way, where something on Netflix, they drop all 10 episodes at once. I don't know that it's necessarily going to be like that, but we will see. So with that in mind, the new season is going to, there's going to be a soft reboot after this. So we're kind of getting the climax of everything, and then it's slowly going to taper back down before it starts picking back up again, and not in a bad way. Anyway, so Jay's Golden Dragon Motorbike, 71768. It is a $20 price tag. It has 137 pieces and comes with 2 minifigs in a quarter of one, half of one, whatever you want to call the other thing. So what you get here is you get a really nice motorbike that it's got a dragon head that is on here. The dragon mouth can actually open and close. You've got your minifig here in Jay that can stand on the bike. I guess you could have him sit. It wouldn't really work very well with having him sit, so standing is the best option. Now, this thing has blue. It has the pearl gold that is here as well. And then you have some translucent neon type yellow coloring here on his wings, on his helmet, which we'll talk about in a few moments, and then also the dragon head itself. Now, there are no eyes on the dragon head, and these dragon heads are kind of interchangeable to a certain degree. If you picked up the last wave of Ninjago stuff where it wasn't thematic in the sense of it didn't follow the cartoon, you kind of have an idea of what we're working with here. Now, it does have a small wheel in the front. It's got a big wheel in the back, and it's got some ninja blades that are hanging out the rear end here, some lightning bolts in that neon translucent color sticking out of the back as well. I get some rock type side covering pieces, but they're not rocks. They're the something that you would see like on a chest piece or on a shoulder pauldron type piece, where it tapers down from 4 bricks wide to, or 4 studs wide to 2 studs wide. Anyway, with that in mind, you have your minifig, but before we get to that, there are stickers that are on here. There's stickers that are in the front of the motorbike, right beyond the handles. There's some that are on the sides where your minifig is going to stand or sit. It just really depends on how you want them to be. Now, the funny thing is, if your minifig is standing there, the dragon mouth can only open so far. But if you were to sit them down and scoot them backwards, you can open it quite far and pretend, you're gobbling something or whatever the case might be. Now, what is nice is you do have rubber tires. You have a low profile rubber tire on the front, and then you have a rubber tire on the back that has a rim, and then it has those newer pieces from a few seasons ago that go on the side of the tire here in the pearl gold, and they're Technic pinned in. So you only have a certain strip of the tire that's really usable, but you don't really get this thing laid over. I mean, I messed around with it. You can still get it on any kind of surface and work just fine. So that works, I mean, really, it's okay. It's not a big deal at all. The forward rake on this thing doesn't seem as extreme as what we have seen with Cole's cycle motorbike a few years ago. And then Lloyd's one for the Island series doesn't seem to be as aggressive as those. It's a little bit kind of more muted, a little more relaxed and reserved. So the minifigs that you get here, as I'd mentioned, you do get your Jay in his Golden Dragon attire, and he comes with his little chain here, his little lightning chain that he uses. This is in gold. We get some new pieces here to attach to the end of the chain that he can hold in his hand. It's a little bit, I kind of like them. They're better than what we used to have because they have little nubs that are on the side, these tiny little bars that you can attach different things to, chains, whatever. I do like that. His shoulder pauldron piece on the rear end of this thing, this is in Pro Gold, by the way, is Technic pinned in for the wings. And the wings are dual molded here, where you have some Pro Gold type translucent yellow mixed in, but it almost kind of, depending where you're looking at it, in the light you're looking at it, it can look a lot darker than that. It's got some claws pieces that are sticking out the top of his wings as well. His minifig torso is kind of interesting. His arms are in that trans color as well. His legs, the same. His little helmet type piece here has a dragon kind of molding in the Pro Gold that is over top. And then on the very rear end, kind of what we saw a few seasons ago, where you had the dual molded masks. I guess they're not technically helmets, but the masks where they had the bright trans color that was used there. And obviously we're talking about the trans kind of like neon yellow here. So that works as well. And I like the way it's done. His printing that is on his torso is not bad at all. He's got that lovely printing that is on the front, and it's printed on the legs as well, which makes it look even better. He only has one face. It's kind of that angry face, ready for business face, but overall it looks pretty good. Now, as we move along, what we're getting into next is we start getting into these new warriors. You get into a plethora of them, and some of them have different printed torsos, but the majority of them have the exact same, just slight variations for what appears to be a difference in rank. So what you're getting here is you're getting your bad dude here. He's just kind of scary looking, just very fearsome. The crystal bad guys. Anyway, you get a new crystal piece that is here, in the translucent pink here. I love the way this is done. I guess maybe more magenta. Either way, it still comes across really, really, really well. I like the way this is done. Then you get into their heads. Their heads are dual molded. You have the gunmetal gray, and then you have that transparent color as well for the eyes and kind of like the mohawk in the back. It's really, really, really neat. Now the legs, one leg is translucent, not transparent, translucent, and the other one is solid in the gunmetal gray. They have printing down on the toes where their, I guess, claws are supposed to be, and then kind of like where this, almost like if you recall what Vengestone kind of looks like, where you have the very dark, kind of charcoaly dark metal gray color, and then you have the orangish type yellow, that is kind of bleeding through. I'm referring to the cartoon more than anything. That's kind of what you have going on here, from the legs up through the torso, in the chest area, chest cavity area. It looks really, really sharp. Now we move on to the last little piece here, and what we have is we have kind of like a little spiderling bot that is going on here. Now, I know the season is supposed to be releasing here anytime, I'd say here in the next week, next few days, more than likely. But at the time of this recording, I don't really know what the purpose of these dudes are. It has 6 legs, and it's got one little eye, and then it has some crystal pieces that are sticking out the rear end of it, out the back side of it. Interesting. Curious to see what goes on with those, but that comes with it as well. So the set is really nice. I think it's a nice addition for $20. Some people are going to pick it apart because it's only 137 pieces. You're more than welcome to do that. But again, we're getting into some chunky things here. So chunky costs money. So let's move on to the next set here. So I know people are going to disagree with me here, and that is more than fine. And here is why. The Lego cars that have been done for Ninjago have run the gamut as far as being incredibly large and incredibly detailed and beautiful to kind of tiny and missing and short on maybe details or color or design. And I think you're kind of getting a mix of both here. And what I mean by that is you're getting a very unique profile of a vehicle. You're getting something that is very close in detail to the images that we have seen for vehicles that are going to be in the upcoming season, to functionality. You're kind of getting a mix of old and new and a very aggressive type color scheme. Obviously you would, because it fits Cole here. Anyway, so what I'm referring to is Cole's Dragon Cruiser 71769. It has really just a minimal amount of pieces in what I feel like. I felt like this was more than the 384 pieces, but that's what it is. And it retails for €45.45. So what do we have here? We have a four-wheeled vehicle that feels more like a sand dune type buggy, not so much a car that you would see maybe in Ninjago or anything like that. It is very wide. It is very aggressive looking, and it does have some features to it that are actually pretty nice. Now, one of the things that I have always jumped on was you can't store weapons for Ninjago vehicles. There's nowhere to put them. I think season 9, way back when, all of those vehicles had extra clips and spots to store weapons. Well, you're kind of getting that here. So in the front of this thing, and we'll talk about the overall aesthetic here in a moment, but in the very front, it opens up. I'm assuming that's not where the engine is located, kind of like a Porsche. On the inside, you can store a few different things. You can store his axe, his hammer that he uses, and you could actually also store a sword in there. There's plenty of room in the way that is done. So it's nice that you can take the things that he carries about with him and stick them in there so that they are out of the way. Now, again, this does lift up. It does close. In the very front of this, I thought was very funny. They use the paint roller pieces on each side to kind of give it a weird looking grill feel. They use a ninja sword in pearl gold draping back over the hood, which is kind of nice. It is in the orange color that the hood is, and then you work your way back in through some gunmetal gray, dark bluish gray coloring that's going on here. The funny thing to me is there seems to be like a lot of weird open space. I don't really know what that's for. I don't really know why that's a thing, but it is a thing. It doesn't bother me in the sense of like, this shouldn't be here. It just kind of looks a little funky. That's all. I love the way that the wheel wells were done over top of this thing. Now, there is no suspension in this. This is a fixed suspension, where you don't have a whole lot of movement, but you have these giant tires that have air in them that are squishable, so you can get a little rough with it. Now, on the sides, as we work our way back through the main area of the vehicle, you have side panels that are on the side here, kind of in the way that Speed Champions are done, because they do use a central piece down in here to be able to get the width of this thing. And I mean, you have the piece made for Speed Champions. You might as well use it in some other things, and it works well here. So some tiles, some 2x4 tiles that have some stickers that are on the side of Cole. Then you have the trans orange windshield that is kind of just chilling, hanging out here. I like the way this is done. It's only held on by 2 studs in the front and just basically sits atop a clip to the rear of Cole's head. Down inside the cockpit, not a whole lot going on in here. Not even any stickers, which is kind of a bummer. Not even a printed little dash of any kind. But what you do have in here is you have your steering wheel, and it does hold 2 minifigs, and it does hold them comfortably, so I can't complain too much. Moving on behind that, what we have is what is supposed to essentially be the engine area that's going on here. It kind of feels like an F1 type engine, Formula One, where it's kind of, up in the back. It's kind of sticking up out of the air off of the windscreen that's in the front here. A little tail that's here. You've got some stickers. And then you move into the functionality portion of this set. And what you have here is a very nicely done Technic build that really gives you a lot of functionality to really add the play value to the set, which is just extraordinary. I mean, how could you not want it? So the funny thing is here, what you've got is you have these giant blade pieces, these trans and solid orange dual molded pieces that are sticking out the rear end of the vehicle, along with some pearl gold pieces as well. And what happens is this Technic mechanism allows you to lift them forward from their rear facing position and kind of in this radical forward position where you're ready for really to cause a lot of damage, throw some hate. Really nice the way it's done. It gives some side protection to the cockpit, really sharp in the way it looks, very aggressive. Now, what happens in the sense of that is you have these tile shooters that pop up that are attached to the assembly as well. They pop up and they allow you access to be able to shoot the tiles. You could technically shoot them when the blades are in the rear position, which look like fire that's coming out of exhaust pipes. You could technically. My experience with doing that was sometimes they hit the Lego pieces in front. Sometimes they glance off. Sometimes depending on how you depress it, it doesn't at all. But you're better off having the flame type sword pieces raked forward and start launching that kind of stuff. Now, when you do that, it does kind of get naked in the back, but when you put everything back to the normal position, it looks fine. You've got some exhaust pieces here that are in the back that are wheel wells that are in the pearl gold. We're talking the tires kind of similar to Jay's bike, where you have a large rubber tire, and then you have the pearl gold pieces here that are used and Technic pinned in as hubcaps on the inside and outside of it. I like the way this looks. I like the way it feels even better. And again, I've said many, many times, I have tiny little hands for a dude. And what is nice is you can pick this thing up and you can run it ragged right in the middle. The solid built structure is incredible in I guess the cockpit area, if you will. And it works so well. It works so well. You can really get aggressive with this thing and it does not come apart. It's really built in a nice way. It's a great little toy to be able to play with. You have some action feature that comes with it, so that's not a bad thing at all. So let's talk about the minifigs. The minifigs that you get in here. We do get a Cole, and he's not the Dragon Cole, which is kind of funny, but he is kind of wearing a goldish type uniform. Cole's in his normal garb, but he's got his golden mask with his black bandana around the top and golden shoulder pauldron, which can hold a sword in the back. Got some nice printing on his legs of all places, right down where the knee would be. I like the way that is done. However, it is not on the back. Now, figures we have seen before. Well, all of the ninja kind of have their own little dragon uniform with the wings and stuff like that. In this sense, it is Kai. Kai comes in his red, and this time you're getting obviously the pearl gold. It's the same thing that we talked about with Jay on the last set. You're getting your little warrior here, your crystallized warrior guy. Same exact build, same exact printing for majority of it. His chest across the top of it is more crystallized. It's not quite the same. And you have a few different versions of these. Again, like I said, just slightly varied. Then we get into Asphyra. Oh my God. I never thought they could improve upon Asphyra. And I'm not saying they have, but this is cool. If you would have told me years ago, after the fire season came out, that we would have an Asphyra in this color palette, I'd have said you're a liar. Flat out a liar. So they use the bottom, which we've seen in Harry Potter sets and stuff like that. The floating kind of torso set that is going on of like a ghost. Her printing on the front is really nice. She's got like a red gem that is kind of in the middle of her torso. She's got the crystallized transcolor pinkish magenta of her shoulder pauldron pieces that are sticking out here. And then her head is that gunmetal gray and also that same trans color, which is great for her eyes and the kind of the, what do they call it? Not the collar of the snake, but where like a cobra fans out. I love the way that looks. It's super sharp. Now, this is a new piece and that we're going to talk about here. There's actually 2 new pieces here, but one of the new pieces is in that trans color. It has 2 tiny bars that are on each side, and it has a bar receiving end for some of the Ninjago weapons. And one of the new weapons looks like a blade. It looks like something you would chop down wheat with or something. It's just kind of weird, like a sickle. It's just kind of funky looking. It's got some teeth near the end of it. It goes from skinny to fat on the end. But the trans piece that has the handle hold here, it doesn't just stop where that piece, where the receiving piece of the pearl gold weapon comes into. It actually goes up 3/4 of the way on the other weapon. Nice little mix of color and design and texture and feel here. I like the way that is done. That really, really works well for me, and I like the way it looks, and it's perfect for her. So as far as that set goes, honestly, I think it's probably one of the better sets. For the price point, I probably would have preferred it at that $39.99. It would have never gone any lower than that, but to me, if I'm buying, if I'm a day one buyer, then obviously that doesn't matter. But if I'm somebody that's kind of being frugal and I'm like, yeah, I don't know, you could wait. You could. It's going to sell for cheaper. You probably had to get it for at least 10 off at some point in time. It's just a matter of when, honestly. But as a whole, I think it's a nice little set. You get Asphyra, which is huge. It's nice to be able to get a big time character in this lower set. Remember when she originally came about, when she had her snake, she was in a set that was $35. So they're still helping you out. They're still letting you get these main characters at the lower price points. So let's move along to the next set here. Zayn's Golden Dragon Jet 71770. This thing is a piece of artwork. 258 pieces, €30, 30 USD here in the United States. Beautifully built, colorful jet, to say the least, using some interesting pieces, interesting techniques, has movement, has some playability, has some swooshability, even though you might need a fatter hand to be able to do it. Still a fun jet to be able to play with. So let's talk about it. The first thing, $30. $30 for a flying machine. I love it. It does, putting many other flying vehicles together in the past from different seasons, you definitely do feel the minimal amount of parts usage here. It does feel kind of flimsy. It does feel light. Not to say it's bad. You can definitely feel it though. The heaviest section, in my opinion, is the cockpit where Zayn is. And of course, we've got to get this fixed, Lego. At some point in time, we need to have the pilots of these things, in this case, Zayn, sitting a little bit more forward so he can see the heads-up display instead of looking out over the top of it. One day this will be fixed. One day this will be rectified. It just has to. It drives me absolutely bonkers that it's still in this position. So with that in mind, you have a jet that has pearl gold. It's got the blue, the medium azure color here, the light azure colors, the azure. I love saying that. It's so funky to me. But you do have these colors here that are used, and they are used quite well, obviously. They work well with the white, and that's probably the biggest thing. Anytime that you can take a color that is along the spectrum with the white and really kind of make it stand out, it just looks incredible. So I love it. Now, in the very front of this thing, you do have a dragon head, again, a mouth type piece here that we talked about on the motorcycle for Jay. Same kind of design here. And then you have a sticker here for Zayn. You've got a fuselage piece for where the cockpit area is. It's not too bad. And then you have Zayn in the cockpit here laying down. You could actually put his sword in here, and we'll get to that here in a little bit, his minifig stuff, but you can actually put the sword in there, believe it or not. It's a little funky looking. It doesn't quite look 100% right. The cockpit doesn't close 100%, but you could technically, because there's no clips here, which is a miss to me. Come on, give me a clip somewhere, anywhere, down the middle. Anyway. So you have that. You got some ingots, black ingot pieces that are used in here, and he's actually not even studded in. They use the piece that they have used for friends and elves and stuff like that, where you might be riding a horse or some kind of vehicle where it doesn't clip in their feet, but it holds their feet in with a little tiny little slender piece here in the middle on a 1x2 modified brick. So as we move back, the fuselage is clipped into place here, which is not anything new. It's okay. Clipped is the wrong word. It's ball jointed in, but it is connected here. You do have some front wing pieces that are used here on the sides. They can be turned minimally. Not a bad thing here. The same kind of pieces that they used on Jay's bike on the side, they're using here, these type pauldron pieces that are almost like scaled, like the scale of a fish or a snake or something like that. It's kind of funky looking. Anyway, so as we move back, we're in the closed mode right now, or I guess the non-aggressive mode. The same kind of pieces that we saw on the last set with Cole. The big sword type pieces. These are massive pieces. These are transcolor as well. You got that light blue with the gold that is mixed in here. And one of the things that I really like about these pieces is they're not 100% similar. They're slightly different. The color variation is slightly different. And it just gives a little bit more of a unique feel. And I love the way it's done. So you have 4 of them total. 2 of them are kind of tucked in here. And then as you move forward move more towards the rear, not forward, more towards the rear, they actually will be, some of these will be raking forward somewhat. But anyway, so you have 2 that are sticking out that are almost kind of like wings, like really, really exterior wings, which is kind of funky looking. But before we get back that far, you do have some stickers here. You got some stickers on some Nexonite shields. You have a sticker that is just behind the fuselage here, the cabin, the cockpit for Zayn. You got a large sticker that is on a modified tile piece with clips here. It's actually technically a hexagon because it does have 6 sides, even though it's not your standard way of looking at a hexagon. But it's a very large sticker, and it was actually very easy to implement into the build and make it look right. How many times have we seen stickers and you're like, crap, this isn't going to work? It actually works really well. So as you move further forward, I keep saying forward because I'm holding it in the wrong hand. As you move further back, what you notice is more white. You do have some printed pieces here. You do have 2x2 round printed pieces here that are supposed to be kind of like fan covers for the engines that are going on. So you do have those at least, even if they're not the most amazing thing on the face of the earth, at least you do have them. People are always like, printed pieces. Yeah, you're going to get printed pieces. So you're good. They have the big type, they're not shuriken blades, but these big 4-bladed circles that are used here. Those are nicely put here as, I guess they're supposed to be some kind of vectoring force that is used here for thrust of the vehicle. And then we move back to the big bulky engine pieces that are back here. We have some white, we have some pearl gold, and then you have your engine outlets back here. And then you have this wing that is in the middle that can actually be moved forward or back towards the rear if you want to look at it like a rudder. Technically, it could be like a rudder, so I'll be curious to see if we go do some water stuff. Remember, we were at water the last season. But what is nice is if you grab onto the rear of the vehicle and then the front, you can open this thing up and make it kind of look like this big flying where it has multiple X's, one X on each side of the fuselage of the vehicle. It looks really aggressive. It looks like a throwing star almost. It's kind of going through the air. It's super neat. You can really get a lot of play value out of this. You could tuck the rear wing in the back like I was talking about, or you can keep it up. Now, getting your hands around the center of this is not the easiest thing to do, especially in this mode, but any mode in general. But you can definitely hold it from the rear, and you can fly this thing all over the place with minimal problems at best. So that is always a nice thing to have, especially as far as play value goes. So let's talk about what Zayn has. Zayn is in golden armor, but it's not like the dragon golden armor, which is kind of funny because you would expect that to be the case, being that this was his set, but it's not. Anyway, he's got his golden pauldron piece, his golden mask with the white around the top. Only one face on him, by the way, so you only have that because that's what Zayn has. Printing on the legs is identical to the other Ninja. The coloring is slightly different. He's got his little belt that is here printed, and then his chest pieces as well. Not too bad looking, not too bad looking. He also does come with a sword, which you can implement. You can either put it on his back, or you can have him hold it, or you could technically get it into the cockpit. It just doesn't close the entire way. Now, the next minifig that we have here, why did this even become a thing? We have the Golden Dragon Cole, and his is by far in my opinion, the best. You have the pearl gold, which goes with the orange flame, trans orange flames that are here on the wings, on the body, on the torso, on the legs, on the arms, on the face. I love it. It is super sharp. I love the way this is done. It feels like it fits the fire season best of all. I mean, if you're a kid and you're jumping back and forth, you can do that. One of the things that I wish they would have done, and I wish they would have done this on all the minifigs, the hands that go up into the arms are not the trans color. They're just orange, and they stick out like a sore thumb. It's like looking at a splinter underneath your skin, and you can see it, and you're like, oh, I see you right there. It just looks bizarre. It's out of place. So in my opinion, that is something I would love to be seen changed. I love the printing that is done on his torso. He does have a black torso, so keep that in mind. It is not that trans color, but the printing comes across really well. The last minifig with this set, oh boy. It's that bad Vangelis guy. King Vangelis, General Vangelis, pain in the butt Vangelis, whatever you want to call him, that's what he is. So he is used here, obviously. We're getting all the baddies back in this season, apparently. He comes with his wings, as usual, like he had, the black wings here. His helmet / mask / hat that he has going on here is in the white, and the hat is black. He doesn't have the little head because, remember, the head is no longer around. His face is super duper scary. It looks more like Garmadon, in my opinion, is very, very funky. He has the same trans shoulder pauldrons as Asphyra did. Obviously, that's what his wings are attached to. The same exact sword piece, except what it has is it has the scythe that the Ninjago used, the newer version of the scythe and the pearl gold that is attached to that brand new piece. His printing on the front and the back is actually pretty nicely done. One of my favorite baddies in the Ninjago, in Ninjago lore. I like getting it here. And again, we talk about price point and stuff like that. Being able to get him at a $30 set is a big deal for a lot of people. So keep that in mind. So let's move on to the last set that we're going to talk about today, and then we'll wrap up with the others on the next episode. The Crystal King Temple. Oh my God. 71771. Sounds like my area code where I was growing up. 703 pieces, 80 euro, 80 USD. This set takes advantage of what? 2019, 2020, with the style that was going around back then. And we'll talk about it here in a moment. All right, so let's get on to the final set here for today. $80, 703 pieces, the Crystal King Temple. My goodness. This has everything that you want. Maybe not everything that you want, but this has a lot in the playset that you may want. It uses the Tensegrity technique from a few years ago that everybody was doing, the Tensegrity challenge. Look at what I can do here. My son was like, I still don't understand how that works. Dude, just move along. Accept it, move along, right? Anyway, so you have a few different pieces that come with this build. You get a bunch of minifigs, you get a lot of action, and we get away from the silly, a few years ago we had that silly game board type feel. They get away from that, which is perfect. That's what I need. Get away from that silliness and give me something better. So what we've got, you have two big sections. I say big, well, okay. But you have two sections to this thing. One of which is a staircase to almost like a forbidden throne. And then you have another floating island type piece that has the Tensegrity Build on it that actually goes up to a very, very big throne of a very, very big baddie. So let's talk about the stairs first. So the stairs actually do have a action feature. They have a few that are pinched in here. And you're trying to get the golden weapons, right? That is your goal. You are trying to accomplish getting all the golden weapons and do the thing. And, that's what has to happen, right? So in doing so, the goal is survive. You need to survive. If you can't survive, I mean, what good are you? You're absolutely no good at all. But with that in mind, you have Jay's lightning nunchucks that are here. You have the interesting, it's not the scythe piece, but it is what would be a sword. You have a golden type sword piece here. You have Zayn's shuriken pieces here. All of this in the gold color, by the way. And you have some action features that come with this. Plus you have big trans pink magenta pieces that are sticking out all over the place because it's crystallized, right? So let's start here at the bottom. At the bottom, you've got this little floating island is the wrong word for this here. But you've got this little floating piece that is going on here, and it has that sword piece sticking up. You have another little floating island next to that. And the funny thing is, you actually have a little feature here where you can take one of those giant trans blades and jam it up and knock a ninja off, knock off a bad guy even. So after exiting that, you have a little solid platform here where the shurikens are, and you move up to the stairs. And the stairs are semi-solid, and what I mean by that is this. They are solid in the sense that they can be moved into position, but not solid in the sense that they're going to stay there necessarily. So the funny thing is, there is an action feature where you can move the stairs over into place. So maybe you say abracadabra and the stairs go bloop and they pop into position. That's fine. That's technic mechanism there. That's super easy. Now above that, you have the rest of the stairs that lead to this throne, not really throne room island, but this other floating island. And the stairs are actually kind of floating there as well. They actually use a hitch piece that is connected to some plates and tiles, but connected to a ball joint, and it just kind of just sits there. So when you flex these stairs to the walking position, falls in flawlessly. When they're not there, it just hangs there casually. I love it. It's beautifully done. Now, as you get up to the top up here, you got to be careful Because if you are going after Jay's nunchucks, you got to be careful. There's a 2x2 round modified tile that has an open stud in the center. But there is a Technic plunger that can come in and knock you off in that position as you are trying to get those, the nunchucks. So be careful. Now, you have a nice little build here. You have some trans colors here. You've got a bunch of stickers, obviously, to make it decorative and stuff. But some ornate decoration is going on here with some larger, rounded, curved tile pieces. I like the way that is done. Looks really, really sharp in the way that LEGO chose to go about making this a thing. Moving on to the next piece that we have here. We've got the larger floating island that is going on here. You do have base plates and stuff like that make up the bottom. You have some trans magenta color here. Technic long pieces here that are rounded on the end. I've never seen these before. These are incredible. I immediately was like, I need more of these for something. I can find something for them. Anyway, so the illusion to be able to get you to believe that this island is floating comes into Tensegrity, which we'll talk about in a moment on the one side. And then you have these things that are just kind of hanging down. Vegetation and such on the front, on the rear. Actually, a really unique building technique that goes on the back side of this, where this assembly is attached upside down in a very funky way, which I honestly did not see coming. And to be honest, you have your base of the island, and then you have this small gap in between. And if you've ever seen, which I'm sure you have, the 1x4 or the 1x2 bricks that have like a brick pattern on one side and then it's just straight across with like a line in the middle, that's about the thickness in between these two plates. They don't attach. They don't connect. There's just a gap. And it was the funkiest thing because I'm looking at it, I'm like, I didn't tighten something down. Fully aware, I know I did. It felt wrong. So as we move up along here, we've got this dragon logo that is on a Nexonite shield here. This is a sticker, by the way. These are all stickers. And then you have the golden scythe that is sitting on the bottom level of this whole island. Some crystal pieces and stuff that are sticking out all over the place. As you move up, you have some more stickers that are on the Nexonite shields. I'm not quite sure what they are supposed to represent or mean. And then you move up to this giant throne and you have a spot to stand your minifig. You have a spot to sit your minifig. It's got crystals growing up behind it. It's got horns and claws sticking out the side of it. It's a beautifully built throne. You've got giant crystal pieces sticking out of the back. You have an arch, an ornate kind of arch that is built, semi-arch that is built up above, and it's absolutely beautiful. And we'll talk about the minifig here that goes there in a moment. But off to the right, just down below that, is the Tensegrity Build. And they use chains to accomplish this. They use 2 chains on each side and then a chain that is on the bottom to accomplish suspending this thing in the air. And it's supposed to be like a little prison cell, a little jail cell that maybe somebody has been crystallized and they're stuck in there. It could be any of your ninja. It could be one of the baddies. Who knows? And I love the way it's done because if you move this thing around and jiggles around and it always comes back to its resting position, I love it. It's so stinking cool. I love the way that thing is done. So let's talk about some other things that you have here. You do have this weird, I'm going to call it a mini dragon. You have this mini brick built dragon that feels like something, it's just an immature dragon is what it feels like. It has no flexibility in it whatsoever. The legs don't move, the wings don't move, the tail doesn't move. It's just built the way it is. And it's meant to sit on one of the tiny islands in the first build that we talked about. And maybe you jump over it or you stir it or something. It doesn't matter. Whatever. But I like the way that it is done. It's a cute little build. It's got a crystallized sticker that is on top of it. And what they do is they use the roller skate piece to kind of make it look like its teeth, its mouth. I like that. That's a neat way of using that piece. And then we get into our minifigs, which are always important. So the minifigs that you get here are Zayn, Kai, Jay, and Cole in normal ninja gear. So that's kind of neat. the Crystal King, and your Vengestone Guard. Now, your Vengestone Guard has that slightly different, it's what we talked about in the last set. It's got more of the crystallized top end. I'm not going to go into that again. I want to talk about the Ninja. Ninja have their regular standard garb that they're wearing. It's not Ninja special. It's not gold in any way. You have regular gunmetal gray weaponry here, swords. I love it. But they're just wearing their standard gi, just slightly varied a little bit as far as the print goes, obviously on their heads, and then, you know, around their belt area. I like it. It's sharp. It's nice. It's unique to the set. If I'm not mistaken, I need to look at the rest of them, but I'm pretty sure you don't get this with any other set, which is great. There's got to be something to it. Obviously, when the cartoon comes out, we'll find out. But I love it. It's really nice. And then Zayn, seeing him with the white, there's something about Zayn as a minifig which I can't ever get over, no matter what. So let's talk about the last minifig and the Crystal King. It feels very Monkey Kid-esque, right? He's got the Garmadon body where he's got the 4 arms. He's got this really funky printed... what do you want to call it? Mask type face, Oni type mask, which looks like a goat. It's really, really funky looking, but it has like a samurai hat that is on the back. It's really, really weird. You lift it up and what do you see? You see the Overlord's face underneath. It's really, really weird. I don't quite understand it. But it's funky. You get these trans pink magenta type swords that are used here. By the way, you get a lot of weapons throughout the wave, and you're going to have more than enough. He's got these shoulder pauldron pieces here that are used for his upper torso. His lower torso has a nice little print on it as well. Pretty much a similar print, if not identical. It's obviously not identical, but it is very similar. I'm kind of sad, though, that his upper torso on the back end is not printed, but in the middle it is, and then the legs are not. It just kind of looks really wonky from the rear end, but I do like it. As a whole, I think the set is really fun. I can't wait to see what the cartoon lays out for the play idea behind this and everything. It's just neat. It's different. It's fun. If you're a Ninjago collector, you're absolutely going to love this. If you're not, maybe you're like, oh, there's some cool pieces in there. Maybe wait for the price to come down. I don't know. But man, some really cool stuff here, especially if you're into the Ninja. You're really going to appreciate this. Absolutely. So that's going to wrap up this show before I lose my voice. And we are going to be back with the next sets coming up here right around the corner. So until we meet again, I'm your minifig host, Matt. Let's build on it.